working great for me. Oh, there we go.
Awesome.
So yeah, pretty much oh, do you have a time limit that I need to keep an eye on or anything like that?
Maybe like an hour.
Okay, cool. Yeah, we'll definitely be around that for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, we will get started. All right. Well,
Awesome.
welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me, my man.
Absolutely. We'll
Appreciate
get
it.
started the same place everybody else does. Let's kind of talk about childhood around to middle school. What were you into? Like, what were you back then?
Oh yeah, that's a good question. If I can remember that far back. I mean, I'm only 29, so it wasn't that long
That's
ago.
all right. We're the same age. We'll make it work.
Yeah.
You can't
All right,
tell,
cool.
but if I
Cool.
have a hat on, then maybe they won't wonder.
Yeah, so growing up, I had a lot of energy growing up.
Mm,
So my mom, to her credit, put me into a lot of classes. She didn't want me staying at home.
yeah.
I mean, none of my siblings really stayed at home and did nothing.
Hmm.
So she would put me through the full gamut of classes of extracurriculars. So tennis, swimming, soccer, karate, then like a Hindu, like a religion class kind of a thing.
Okay.
And then so all my days after school, my time
Yeah.
after school spent in one of those things. And then what really stuck was probably tennis for sure,
Okay.
and swimming to some degree, but tennis. I played a lot of tennis growing up.
Yeah.
Um,
So at what age? Because tennis usually is definitely hard to get into at a later time.
yeah,
At what age did you start
I,
playing
I would
tennis?
I would say like six, and martial arts, karate. So
Oh,
those three
cool.
things. So yeah, so I would say six. I started tennis maybe when I was six, and then karate when I was like, I don't know, 8. I think I did it for
Okay.
4 years. So
Wow.
yeah, so those three things were where I spent a lot of my time
Yeah.
after school. And then on the weekends we would do like family stuff. I didn't really like go out much. I didn't really
Yeah.
like
You
hanging
weren't
out with
partying too
people.
much as a middle schooler.
No, like even in high school, I didn't really party until college.
Yeah.
Now that I think about it, like this whole idea of it's so stupid, but this whole idea of hanging out with people after school
Yeah.
was so foreign to me
Hmm.
because I was just so used to going to classes
Right. So
and having,
you had school, then either right to tennis or right to whatever sport
yeah,
was
some sort of,
next.
and on the weekends. So like my
Yeah.
weekends were booked too.
Absolutely. So of those three sports, did you like them all equally? What did you like the most? What was sort of the
Um,
highlights?
I would say like I always had anxiety around like competition
Okay.
growing up. I think even now to some degree a little bit, but tennis was always nerve wracking to me because of that. But then I got over it after a while once
Hmm.
I got older. Um, but I would say like I would say the most long lasting effect was martial arts because it taught me the really important ideals of like hard work, discipline,
Right.
humility, integrity, practice,
Hmm.
body movement, like body awareness.
Yeah.
And then so that's kind of that's kind of lent itself to dance, which is what I picked up when I was like 12 or 13.
That's awesome.
So dance became the next
Yeah.
iteration of like body sort of movement practice,
Absolutely.
and that became like my main source of, I don't know, obsession from
That's
13
fantastic.
onwards.
So as far as like during karate and learning all these things, was it through just constant practice? Was it through would it be sensei or master or what was the
Yeah, that's a good question. It wasn't sensei. It was a Korean style. So Tang Sudo was the name of
okay.
it, and I think it was master. I think we called
Yeah.
everybody master.
And so
Um,
was it just going through the belts, learning everything slowly? What integrated that kind of thought process for you?
yeah, it's a lot of like, um, so we had exams for every belt.
Yeah.
So there was like a curriculum for every belt,
Okay.
and so you would have to perform whatever forms that there were for each belt, and like there was no other way to learn it other than practice. Like you would learn it and then you would
Got
have
it.
to practice at home because
Yeah.
it was like choreography basically. It's
Okay.
like learning choreography. So there was no other way to really learn whatever it was without practice. And
Okay.
if you wanted to do it at a high level and get like the highest score,
Yeah.
and obviously coming from like immigrant parents, that getting the highest score is obviously very important.
Yeah.
So at home there was a lot, like discipline was the word of the household.
Okay. So
Yeah.
other than, so obviously as you make that comment there, what, in which ways is it showed that you need to get a high score, you need to excel? How is that more so expressed to you as a child?
It was more like, it wasn't like out of a negative thing. It was just like, you're capable of more. You're capable, like, where did
Okay.
you make the mistakes? How can we improve? And then how do we,
Yeah.
not do that? And
Yeah.
also education in my household was held to a very high regard.
Okay.
So
And
it was important to like do your best.
okay. And then once again, was it saying, hey, you need to do this to get a good job, to get money? Or once again, how was it showed? Is
Yeah.
it by example, or how did they kind
Yeah.
of portray that?
Yeah. It wasn't really about money. It was just about, it's the right thing to do, I suppose, because,
Hmm.
it was also like my parents took me back to India where they grew up. They took us all back. So we all knew where they came from, and
Yeah,
that lifestyle. And it's very, it's a complete 180 to where
absolutely.
I grew up. I grew up in sort of privilege and they did not. So
Hmm.
for them, education was a big thing. And that was that was one of the pillars of, I guess, having at least the tools to survive in a material sense and in a
Yeah.
life sense once they are no longer able to pay for your lifestyle. So,
Hmm.
yeah, I guess it was a survival thing. It was an important, uh, it was like a badge of honor, let's say,
For sure.
kind of a thing,
Yeah.
education. I think immigrants value education very much because
Yes.
that was their ticket to the American dream, if you will.
No, absolutely. So growing up, what did your diet and or nutrition look like? Was that something that was
Oh,
focused on?
it was all, no, it's so funny. Like, I, I have a huge appetite.
All right.
And I have my mom's side of the family is known for eating.
Okay. Not necessarily a bad thing. Eating is good. I
No,
hear it
no,
keeps
no,
us
not at
alive.
all. But yeah, that's very true. But we like to indulge. We like food. I
Hmm.
love food. So diet and nutrition was never part, like, it was just assumed that the home cooked food was the best food. And it
Yeah.
is very good.
Hmm.
But if we're talking about real diet and nutrition, like we're talking like athletic kind of stuff,
Yeah.
then it's probably not the best because there's a lot of carbs in Indian food and there's a
Yeah.
lot of,
Well, and I think a lot of people look at perfection and that's Arnold, and then like he's definitely eating clean, but also he looks like that for a couple days a week or a couple
yeah,
days a year, and
yeah,
then he's
yeah,
bulking for the rest
yeah,
of it. So that
yeah,
might not be the
yeah.
epitome of health.
Oh, for sure, for sure. There's also like what I've noticed, there's a science to nutrition, which we don't, we just eat.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So like if you were to go to that level, it would have been very different. But for
Yes.
us, it was just home cooked food. That was a
Hmm.
big thing. Our food is like, there's a lot of vegetables, a lot of fish.
Hmm.
Grew up eating a lot of fish. And but I ate a lot of junk food. I
Okay.
love chips. I love Doritos.
Yeah.
There's a fat kid.
Cool Ranch or regular Doritos?
I like it all. I like Cool Ranch. I like nacho. I like spicy nacho.
Okay.
I just finished a bag of chips over the weekend. Salsa verde,
There we go.
the spicy chili, the purple
Okay.
one. Love
Yeah.
that one.
Yeah.
Love pizza.
Hmm.
Um, so I have I guess an obsessive personality, but I took it to another level as a kid. But then as I grew up and started dancing and started taking it a little more seriously, then all that was cut out for a long time.
So do you think was it showing in sports? Like, were you struggling? Were you overweight?
Oh,
What was?
I was overweight as a kid,
Okay.
for sure. like I was like thin
Mhm.
growing up, and then I don't know when I bulked up, if you will. But it was definitely like, yeah, I think at elementary school, middle school. Then when I started dancing at around 13, 12, 13, then I started losing it. And then there's the baby fat stuff.
Yep.
But I would say like, I don't know, 7 to 12, the diet was horrible.
Yeah.
A lot of
So
chips. I played a lot of video games, so I ate a lot of chips.
wonderful. All right. So was it GameCube, Xbox, PS2,
PlayStation,
what? PlayStation?
PlayStation and PlayStation 2.
Okay, very nice. So yeah, as far as what did your parents when you're eating, did you ever get to say no, I don't want this? What was their kind of
There was never a shortage of food.
okay.
For sure. It was always like it was the junk food that was the problem. But if
Mhm.
I like ate my mom's food, it was
Yeah.
never a problem. It was never
Yeah.
a problem.
Yeah.
So it was always the outside food. It was those chips and ice cream
Yeah.
sandwiches. Oh, yeah.
It's
Yeah.
hard because either the ice cream sandwich is so small you can't just have one, or it's big and then you don't want to just have just one.
Yeah. The thing my mom would get is these snack pack
Yeah.
chips. And it was like a row of 60. So it was like Fritos, Lay's, Doritos, and then whatever, Cheetos. So,
Yeah.
and I knew where she hid them. So I knew.
Yeah.
So, and I knew that if I threw it out in the upstairs trash can, she would see it and she would catch me. So I threw it. So this is what happened. I actually took the wrappers, and we have a
Yeah.
couch downstairs in our basement
Yeah.
where I would play. So I would actually throw the wrappers underneath the cushion of that sofa. And then
So
one day,
when did
and
that
then
get clean?
and then one day, we're going out for dinner or whatever, and for some reason my dad is like waiting downstairs, and he takes a seat on that couch. And as soon as he takes a seat on the couch, he just hears this crunch sound of all the wrappers. And so he's like, what the hell is that? So he gets up, he takes the cushions out, and it's literally a montage, like a paper mache covering of Fritos, Lay's, Cheetos, Doritos, like all these snack packs underneath the cushion of the sofa. So he was, I mean, they laughed about it because it was so funny. But yeah, that's when I got caught.
Yeah.
I
That's
remember that.
fantastic.
I remember that.
Yeah. So, as far as dance, how was that introduced to you? What was kind of surrounding that?
Yeah, so we do this like family reunion every couple of years. It's like our community,
Hmm.
our like where my parents have come from. They came from a city called Mangalore.
Okay.
So we do, so like a lot of them immigrated here to the US. So they started like back in the 70s, this huge reunion
Hmm.
across North America, and then we all like congregate in one city, and that city hosts it and whatnot.
Right.
So growing up, it's like a 4-day event, and like on the
Okay.
last day there's like a variety show, and
Mhm.
every state has to kind of do a performance, and it's like very traditional for the kids to get involved and whatnot. So my older brother, my older sister went through the whole rite of passage of doing that, being forced to dance, blah blah blah, and then it was my turn.
Yeah.
And it was like 2003, I think so. I think 2003. That's when I like had to perform, and that was when my number was called.
Yeah.
And so I did it with all my cousins and whatnot. And I saw the tape, and I just really like it sucked. And for some reason, it like bothered me that I was so
That it
bad.
hit you deep.
Yeah, I don't know why. Like, it's not like dance was ever part of the conversation, but
Yeah.
I just thought, okay, I'm gonna do this, and the next time I perform, whenever that is, I'm gonna
Yeah.
be better. So I just started practicing every day after school, coming home, and then that was like my training for 2 or 3 years, just popping in DVDs of Indian movies, and then eventually my mom, again, to her credit, she noticed it and she was like, I'm going to put you in a class.
Nice.
And then like, I think when I was 15, 16, I started dancing at a studio and with a company, and then sort of trained, I guess, quasi. And
That's super cool. How was
yeah,
that?
that was good. It was a great experience. It was again another extracurricular activity
Yep.
on the weekends where like, oh, this whole hanging out with people thing just doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
So I had another outlet to have, and I actually picked it in a way. Like dance was something I chose to do, and so that's why I guess I stuck with it, and it became a really interesting passion. And then that springboarded me into the acting world off of dance, which also was just another mistake, but a happy one.
Yeah.
And so from like 16 to like 20, 21, I was dancing with this company, and we would do shows. We would do like shows at Sweet 16s. We would do shows at like corporate events. We would do big stage shows when like huge movie stars would come and like they would do shows. So
That's
it was kind of like
cool.
it was like
So what kind of dance studio was it? Was it
it was
jazz, everything,
no,
or?
It was a Bollywood dance studio.
Okay.
So yeah, so I guess I was, I don't know, dancing semi-professional. I call it semi-professional.
Were you getting paid?
I was getting paid.
Oh, that's pro.
A little bit of money.
That's pro.
I would say the standards, I don't know. Now that I see, like, when I see professional dancers, I'm like, they're like trained. They're like, there's a proper training behind what they did. We were just, or I was just kind of like putting things together.
Yeah. So what was practice like from when you first started showing up? Do they just give you the moves and you just have to learn them, or what? Like, walk me through a couple practices.
Yeah, I mean, we would get a gig and we would have like set numbers. Eventually it got to a point where it was like we would have preset songs.
Okay.
And we would have routines to them, and then we would have little like little things that we would have to change, maybe the
Tweaks
order of the song.
Stuff,
yeah, but we would usually learn a new piece, or there would just be one gig where we'd have to learn like 5 different pieces. And so every practice was just learning, and we would have the sort of the head of the head choreographer. He would sort of choreograph all the pieces, and then maybe we would have inputs after a while or something, or he would be like, you do this solo here, so you make it up and whatever. Or it was very it's really, it's like sort of like guerrilla style filmmaking, if you will. It's very like, it was very like, there's no method here, but it's interesting.
Yeah.
And people keep hiring us. and
it was working.
Here. It was working. And that's also kind of like what Bollywood dance is like, there is to some degree some technique and some I don't know, history and whatnot, but there's also just a lot of acting. There's a lot of like simple movements, and it's really the show and the entertainment value. It's not so much choreography driven. I think it's more of an act. It's like a musical act, if you will. So you have to like lip sync, you have to like act, you have to tell a story. So that's really what it became more about. And so that's kind of like where I got my first acting training, I suppose. But that's what it was. It was a really interesting guerrilla style dance, I suppose.
What was it like on some of the bigger stages? Did you ever have stage fright? What, did you meet any of the famous people, or what was some of those scenarios?
I mean, those bigger gigs were not, they were okay. I mean, it's cool to be on a stage with like, I don't know, 10,000 people, but
wow, where was that?
I think we did one in Atlantic City. We did one in I don't know if it's still up, but Nassau Coliseum in Long Island, in where the Islanders play.
Super cool.
Yeah, it was cool, but it's just like, I don't think I ever enjoyed being a backup dancer.
Hey, be true to yourself. That's good.
Yeah, I just, The smaller intimate gigs of like Sweet 16s or somebody's party,
Yeah.
and where there's a dance floor and then you're just surrounded by people, that was more interesting because it's a smaller, it's not like 30 dancers. It's like our troupe, which is, could be 8 people, 4 people, and each of us would have our own numbers to
Okay.
lead.
Yeah.
And so there was a way, there's an intimacy to that makes it sometimes more enjoyable, because you can actually, in a way, interact with the people that are watching you, and they feed you and you feed them. When it's so big and you're just a prop on stage, so to speak, it's a very odd, but I also haven't had enough experience on that kind of a big stage. But
Yeah.
from what I remember, it was just you feel, it's a weird thing. You don't really feel seen in a way, and you don't. It's a weird thing, like, because there's this distance between you and the audience on a big stage like that.
Yeah, like you're there, but you don't know that
There's all this there's all this railing.
Yeah.
And it's kind of in a way removed from the audience, so you don't get that intimate back and forth, if you will. But and also as a backup dancer, nobody's really, I don't know.
The light's not just on you.
Yeah.
So was there, as far as being a backup dancer, were there any like, I don't know, were there battles for first? Like, how does that work?
No, it was more like, this is your job. This is the routine.
We hire you as shooting guard and we want you to shoot. We don't need you
to
run point.
Like like you have a role to play.
Okay.
And then some of the dancers who maybe were around for longer, or like just better dancers, maybe would get a chance to dance with the star.
Okay.
And like next to them and whatnot, and interact and whatever. But it was very much like, you're a backup dancer, this is the star. You don't, there's no interaction.
Yeah, you're the scenery.
Talk to them. Yeah. Don't talk to them. Which I kind of hate it. It's kind of stupid, I think.
Yeah, they're people too. We should be able to say hi.
Yeah. It's not, and I don't know.
Yeah.
It's interesting. So I knew, like, I never wanted to become a professional dancer.
Okay.
But it was a great experience, and it was a great introduction to.
Yeah. So when you were traveling, did you hang out with the people? Like when you were traveling for work and stuff like that? Did you dabble in hanging out? So like when we did those bigger shows,
where it was like maybe 30, 40 dancers, it was we hung out, like the dancers hang out.
Right.
Then the stars are kind of on their own. But when we would do like these more intimate shows, and it was just 8 of us or 6 of us, that was a lot of fun, because that troupe became sort of familial, and we would hang out outside of gigs and stuff like that. Like that was a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun with that smaller troupe that we had for those 3-4 years. And that became very enjoyable after a while.
Yeah. So, and that was up until what age did you have that gig?
I think I really just stopped. I was like very in it, maybe from 16 to like 18, 19.
Okay.
And then come college, I think kind of died off a little bit. And then I would kind of sporadically go back. But I did move. I think by like 23, 24, I was out.
Okay.
And I wasn't dancing with them. I was just dancing on now I just do it on my own, and just for myself, it's just my own thing.
Yeah. So as far as like high school goes, was there a certain degree you're looking for, a certain job that for looking at school? Was somebody helping you towards a direction? What did that look like for you?
Yeah, my parents never really pressured me to do anything. I think more of the pressure came from actual high school and guidance counselors.
Okay.
Of like, what college are you going to? You need to have these top 3, and then this backup, and then you need to have blah, 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 blah. And it's like, I've never really talked to my guidance counselor. And then now all of a sudden they're like,
now he's my guy.
Yeah, well, actually that's not true. But my guidance counselor changed. I don't know. but it was just weird that I had to have all this stuff figured out in a way. And I don't know, my parents never really bugged me about it, which is interesting. I had always had my mind set on doing dentistry,
Okay.
but at that age, it was like either you go into some kind of science or you
Yeah.
do
So
basic.
did you really like your childhood dentist? What was the
It was,
he
to me,
gave you
I
the
was,
bubblegum flavor? What was the
yeah, I don't know. It was like, to me, there were two, there, like in my mind, there were two options, which was science or business or like
Yeah.
corporate, whatever. And I was good at science. I was good at biology.
Okay.
And so I figured I'd go down the road of some type of medicine.
Hmm.
And people were always talking about how, and now I realize how ridiculous this is, but like to some degree, dentistry is like less hectic than medicine
Hmm.
and is a little easier, which is, I have friends that are in the dental game and it's like, dude, no, it's not. It's like,
Yeah.
it's expensive. It's just as competitive. It's just as crazy.
Yeah.
And, and so that's what I chose. I figured I'd do something in science and medicine related.
Hmm.
And then that all got flipped on its head when I did my first film at 18. And that was really what I should have done. I should have just gone down the road of acting anyways, because everybody else was like, you're not going to become an actor? You're not going to like pursue the arts in some way? And I was like, no,
When
because
everyone
there's,
was talking about it, you're like,
yeah. And
eh.
because I was like more practical in the sense, like there's no safety in it, but
Yeah.
it's all nonsense to some degree. There's no safety in any of it.
Yeah.
And if you just do what you are really passionate about and you understand, I think if you understand the skills of business, then you can take anything and make money off of it.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I never learned the skills of marketing, selling.
Yeah.
Social media was very young at that point.
Yeah. So
Um,
when you talk about business and stuff of that nature, did you ever come across a class that was extremely beneficial in that area? Because I remember having a marketing class, and it was actually really funny because the Senor El Presidente right now, they would show his show every Wednesday, and
yeah,
it was location, location, location.
yeah,
So, and just I would listen to him every Wednesday talk, just spew whatever his stuff was. But marketing wise, like some of the stuff was interesting, catchy, where's the default, all that kind of stuff. But
yeah.
I feel like not a huge amount was practical. And once again, it was a high school class. But was there anything that resonated with you business wise or accounting or anything like that?
I will say, like in college, ironically, I went to Pace University to study acting, dropped out of the acting program, studied acting with a teacher outside of college.
Okay.
And in college, I decided to switch my major to economics. And I
Mm-hmm.
loved economics. And that's when I started understanding, like, I feel like I got more worldly. Like, there's this world out there and everything is interconnected. And there's this thing called money. There's this thing called markets. There's this thing called people and behavior and supply and demand. Like that's when I started understanding that kind of stuff. Now they didn't teach me about investing and business
Mm-hmm.
per se, but it I think it planted the seed of like I can use this somehow in my career as an actor.
Okay. So 18, what was the film? Like how did you get into it or what was,
Yeah, so it came about through dance.
okay.
Um, and the film is called When Harry Tries to Marry.
Okay.
It's a romantic comedy that you can find on, I think it's on Amazon Prime.
Ooh, there we go. I feel like a lot of
But
people have that.
I think so. Yeah, yeah, it is. So that was my first foray. But that I got because I was dancing and a
Yeah.
director was at the show and he saw me perform and was like, I'm writing this film and would you like to audition for it? And I was like, yeah, sure. I had no acting was never
Sure.
part of my thing. So I auditioned. It was terrible. And then somehow I got a call back.
Wait, well, so what was so terrible about the audition? Did they give you a script beforehand? What was the
Yeah,
audition?
like I had prepared stuff.
Okay.
Like they gave me the script or some pages, and they had me prepare a couple of scenes. So I did, and I did it to whatever the best of
Yeah.
my knowledge without having any
Do you feel like
training.
your dancing kind of helped because you said that was a little bit of acting as well?
Yeah, that was the only training I really had, and
Hmm.
then the discipline from martial arts of like you just have to do it.
Yeah.
That like I don't know, but we just have to do it.
Yeah. So as far as that discipline goes, I think a lot of people are have a hard time wrapping their head around discipline, and what I imagine going on in your head when you are kind of talking to yourself about something, there's the just do it also because you believe and you know that, oh, I'm just going to have to keep doing this and I'm going to see the end result. When
Yeah,
I think a lot of people, when they tell themselves like, oh, I just need to be more disciplined, but they have no reason to believe in themselves for whatever that reason is. So that discipline is
yeah,
kind of short-sighted. So they're like, I just need to kind of do it, kind of thing.
yeah. Discipline is also, from what I've learned, at least from this year,
Hmm.
discipline has nothing. It's non-emotional.
Hmm.
It's not attached to. It's not about your feelings.
Yeah.
It's about your sense of responsibility, if you will. So discipline is about doing what you know you're responsible to do, which you can arbitrarily put on yourself. Like,
Right.
I want to get into shape. Okay, so now that's a commitment, and
Hmm.
you are responsible to fulfill that commitment on the daily.
Hmm.
And it's not about how you feel, it's just about doing what you know you're supposed to do to get perhaps the end result or whatever. It's just that is your responsibility. So I suppose, like, with the acting stuff and like that first audition, it's just this is what I've got. It's my responsibility, if you will, to do this to the best of my ability for
Yeah.
whatever reason, because I don't want to disappoint this other person.
Hmm.
And I don't want to look back and feel like, I threw away an opportunity,
Right.
came to me by some sheer luck.
Hmm.
So I prepared as much as I could, and then did the audition, and it was great. I mean, it was what it was, and then I just felt terrible afterwards. So I went for a walk in this. It was in New York City, so I just went for a walk in the city,
Hmm.
and my mom sort of chaperoned me, but she didn't really. She was like a pizza shop or something,
Yeah.
and then I just called her, and then we went back home, and then I just forgot about it, and then like a couple of weeks later, I get another audition, and that one went better. I felt a
Yeah.
little more comfortable, and
Was
then
it for the same part? So like, it was a callback?
yeah,
Okay.
and I read for like the title character, so that was really weird.
That's
Like
cool.
no experience, no nothing, and reading for that, and then
Yeah.
but the second audition, which it was just like a table read and
Hmm.
meeting people in and out, and it lasted for about, I don't know, 3-4 hours from what I remember, and
Wow.
yeah, by the end of it, he offered me the part, and then we had to raise the money, so we raised the money, and then we eventually shot the film in
So
2000.
how does that work? So he says, "Hey, you got the job. Now can you bring in some money for us?" Or
No, no. Well, so he gave me the part, but they were still trying to figure out the financing.
okay.
So what we had to do was they brought in investors, and we just did a whole sort of, we did it almost as like a play,
Got it. Pitched
like
them. Yeah.
yeah. We did the whole thing, and we did it around for like 3-4 rounds
Wow.
of this kind of stuff, and they raised the money, and so then I think fall of 2009 we shot it.
That's super cool. What was the shooting schedule like? Was it kind of what you hear, or was it decent on the daily?
We shot, I think, 30 days in New York, and then
Okay.
we went to India for like a 10-day shoot.
What was that like?
That was incredible. It was weird. It's interesting because I think I got spoiled on my very first film with all this happening.
Yeah,
And I was so new to it, so I figured
this is just what it is.
this is what it is. And I didn't understand like not all movies that get made get seen.
Okay,
So now that was the next part of the whole project.
yeah,
But doing it and like getting paid to do it and then traveling and whatnot, and it was like, oh, this is really cool. Okay. This is probably how it always is. But
yeah.
then no, it's not.
You were the guy on the front of the stage.
I was the guy in the front of the stage, and that was that was like purely learning on the job, and that
Mhm.
was yeah, I've never felt so on the daily just defeated and felt like, what am I doing? I
Really.
never felt so wobbly on my feet.
Hmm.
I think that was the first time in my life that I'd ever experienced that level of perceived pressure and like just not feeling sure of anything that I was doing. It was as if I'm just wandering,
So
you know.
even though you have the lead role, you're being brought around top of the line service and all that stuff going on. What was was it something somebody said, or it was just a perception, or
Yeah, I just felt like I didn't know what I was doing, you
yeah,
know, and so like all these other people are so experienced,
right.
the camera people, the other actors,
Hmm.
um, and it's just like, am I doing this? I don't even know if I'm doing this right. I don't know. I was always like being too big. It felt like I was being too much, or
Yeah.
and you know, it's like you kind of take everything. You don't understand. How do I say it? Like when you're first starting, you kind of take everything personally, if you will.
Yeah.
And it's not personal, but you take it like, oh, I'm inadequate. I'm inadequate.
So as in when the producer would say, "Hey, change this," or the
Yeah, or
director,
like the
okay,
director would say like, do this, or the camera guy would be like, do this. This is too much. That blah blah blah. That or something like that. Or it's just like this awkward energy, and it's like, I don't know what I'm doing. You tell me what to do. I don't know. You told me to do that. Okay, let's try that. Or like you try something and it's like, no, don't do that. Don't do that. Like I wasn't used to like pitching ideas and getting them rejected,
right,
and being kind of like, yeah, it's just part of it. I don't care.
yeah,
You know, you're so green that it's like
for sure,
you get a little scared to, or some people do. I mean, I did. I was just
yeah,
scared to just try stuff or do stuff.
yeah,
But then, you know, I was eventually able to just get through it, and
hmm,
I would say I learned a ton. And it gives, again, like you go through those kinds of challenges, it gives you a ton of confidence on the way out.
hmm.
And after that, then things got a little easier in terms of having my feet under me.
Okay. So
You know,
what was the rap party like? What was kind of the next steps going from there?
I mean, I was super young, so I was uh, I was 18, so I couldn't drink, I couldn't like do any of that, and that was
Yeah.
also a foreign world to me.
Hmm.
Drinking, I never drank. Um, Partying, again,
Yeah.
I don't know what it's.
Yeah.
I don't know what hanging out with people means. It doesn't
I
make
mean,
sense.
I'll probably tell this story a lot, but I don't drink much either. But growing up, I always thought like, oh, I'm not going to drink because I want to excel in sports. But I was on like the B and C team, so at that point, it didn't
Yeah.
really matter.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean, yeah, and I was also I was very naive in some ways. Like I didn't have any experience. I didn't have
Hmm.
any real world experience to kind
Yeah.
of use to interact with the environment that I was now in. So
Hmm.
it felt kind of I always felt uncomfortable. I always felt out of place. For me, it just felt odd, yet I just kept going. So
Yeah.
after doing that film, I had to go back to college.
Okay. So what was like the film finishes? Are you like, hey, this is just what I'm going to do now, or you're like, that was nice college?
Yeah, so again, like education was big, and I had to go to college because that was just the requirement in my
Hmm.
family, I suppose. And I was supposed to go to NYU for dentistry,
Okay.
but that fell off because I did the film,
Mhm.
and
Dentistry is
NYU,
competitive.
yeah, and NYU is very weird, and like they wouldn't let me start in the spring,
Okay.
so I had to drop out, and then I applied to Pace University, which I
Mhm.
got into because one of the actors on the film was he was an acting teacher at the university, so he gave me a
Wonderful.
spot. Yeah, so he gave me a spot in the program, and then I dropped out of the program, and
So
then
what was the reason behind that?
yeah, so I had started um, taking classes after that film, basically, and working one on one with a coach, um, who was probably the most influential, I think, person in my acting career to this day,
Yeah.
because he made the whole thing about me, and
Okay.
not in like an arrogant, selfish way. It was like,
Yeah.
do the stuff that makes you scared. Also, just take your time. That was a big thing. Like, he just said, let's start slow. There's no need to rush. There's no need to like, no, let's take it slow. Let's take the words off the page, and then we'll see. Let's see what happens to you because of the words,
Right.
and let them affect you, and then you go, and
Mhm.
then you know what I mean. So there's this. Then it just became really interesting, and he basically allowed me to use my instinct,
Okay.
and that's a very tough thing, I think, to allow people, and that's basically how I like to work. Is, again, there's no methodology, if you will, but there is a methodology, in that it's not entirely chaotic, but it's coming from a more personal place. So even with dance, I wasn't technically sound. I'm
Mhm.
not tech. I don't know the technique of dance, but I understand rhythm,
Yeah.
and I can feel music, if you will, in a way.
Mhm.
Doesn't mean I'm very good. It's just like there is an instinctual
Yeah.
aspect that if you develop first and then you have the technique, then things can be because then you can just unload in a scene. You can do things that surprise you and
Mhm.
surprise the people in the scene, and that makes you. And he taught me one very important. He's like, don't worry about being good or bad. Just worry about being interesting. And the stuff that's going to be interesting is the stuff that fires from your instinct, that fires
Yeah.
from you, that fires from your willingness to take those chances, to do the stuff that scares you.
Mhm.
And so he kind of turned the whole acting game and shifted it towards me, towards
Okay.
myself. And he allowed me to develop myself first before trying to, quote unquote, play a character or play this other.
Got it.
He made it about, let's figure you out.
Yeah.
I want to see you in this.
Mhm.
And obviously we have to honor the story and all that, but what's going to make your version of this thing, of Hamlet or of Romeo,
Mhm.
of Biff or Happy from Death of a Salesman, it's going to be you, essentially.
Right.
So he planted that seed into my head at a very early age, and I resonated with that. That was like my free. I don't know. I understood that frequency of communication
Yeah.
and learning.
So when he says go after the things that you're scared of, is that something, a line that you had to go deeper in? You had to reach within? What does that look like?
It's really like it happens in a moment. Like you have this instinct to, like, I don't know, yell a part of the line,
Okay.
or do something weird with your body. And he's like, do it, get it out, so that
Mhm.
we can see if it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. And he basically was like, fail.
Okay.
And he pushed failure.
Mhm.
He didn't push logic. He didn't ask me like, why did you do that? He would ask me more like, all he would say is like, just don't act. Just just be.
Yeah.
Just do the thing and see where it takes you. But just one thing, don't like don't act it the way you think it should be.
Yeah.
Do it the way that it's hitting you inside. So he made me more conscious of that,
Okay.
which I think pays dividends. But the fear comes from that voice that you have, which is either born out of some form of insecurity or instinct or impulse or whatever. But he's like, just get it out.
Yeah.
And then we'll see if it leads you to something else, if it doesn't, if it's just completely like that makes no sense.
Mm-hmm.
But he's like, get the stuff out so that you can see what is working, what keeps coming back, what doesn't. And that way, every single time you're in it, things can start percolating and you can just go without thinking too much about, am I doing this right?
Right. I like it.
It's a weird, yeah, it's a weird, and he had like a practical way of doing it. And it was very simple. Just like look down, look up, whatever words you just captured from your brain, and like whatever they do, just say it that way.
Yeah.
So if it makes you laugh, laugh. And nobody was communicating acting to me in that way in the program. So I just felt like I should stick to the guy that I resonate with, and we'll figure something else out for college. And
Yeah.
ended up being the right decision for me. Then I'm not saying technique doesn't matter, but I think that it's like you got to find your voice. It's like when you're podcasting, you got to find your voice.
Right.
And to find your voice means you have to fail and you have to try stuff and you have to it doesn't mean you have to be like, it's not technique per se. It's just, where am I? Who am I?
Yeah.
What do I have to say? What are my opinions on this thing? What am I? Who am I? It's sort of like more deep, and you never get the answer because it's a ever evolving thing. But if you center around those kinds of questions, it makes you as a person much more engaging. And then whatever comes out of your mouth and whatever medium becomes more interesting and more engaging because it's rooted in you.
Right.
And it becomes more quote unquote authentic and vulnerable and blah, blah, blah. But it's really just you.
Right.
So even when you start putting on weird costumes and you start playing characters that are more extreme and whatever, there's still this rootedness to the earth that people buy into and makes it relatable, if you will, because it's you've developed you're developing you, and you're exploring yourself through all these weird extremes and whatnot.
Yeah.
There's probably a more eloquent way of saying it, but you know what I mean?
like it. I like it.
It's a weird, it's a different, I think it's a different way to practice. And I think it has a lot of benefits, but again, I think everybody operates on their own wavelength, and this was just a wavelength that I understood. It was more,
and he was there for it. That's what
it was much more energy. Like it was these weird words that I just understood.
Yeah.
And somebody who's maybe more type A won't.
So he's taking you through the steps and whatnot. Where are we going from dropping out of school to that program to having this coach? Were you seeing him every day? Were you seeing him once a week? Like what were you doing?
I was seeing him once a week, and then I was in college, and then eventually I picked up economics in college, and then graduated with an econ degree, which I loved. And that was to me, that was another training in acting, because it was another way to see people. It was another way to understand human behavior, apart from just the actual technical stuff that we learned. But to me, that was another form of acting training. And then, so after I graduated college in 2013, then I spent a couple of years in New York pursuing acting, living at home, pursuing acting.
Yeah.
Did some plays, did some indie, did some indie features, and did some short, did whatever I could get.
Right. So you mentioned that everything wasn't as high class as the first film you did.
No.
What did everything else provide to you?
It just showed me, again, like, I think the best way I learn is learning by doing.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I prefer to learn. Not a good planner, if you will. I'm not a
Yeah.
good, like, I'm the worst at answering, what's your 5-year plan? I'm the
Yeah.
worst at answering, like, what's the next step? I'm the worst at, like, structuring things. I'm more like, I figure out the structure by doing things. So
Mm-hmm.
the subsequent projects that I did to learn that, to learn, what like the second film I did was so torturous in a way because of how it was just like very poorly planned, and then I just did a bunch of gigs that, like, just to get that experience,
Right.
just to figure out, again, finding my own voice,
Mm-hmm.
working with different people. Can I still implement what I'm learning, and then learn on the job, and learn about being on set, and working with people, and traveling, and working for no money, basically, like
Yeah.
$0, working for free. Like, I still have this, like, again, I don't work harder when the paycheck goes up, and I don't work less hard when the paycheck goes down.
Mm-hmm.
But to me, I'm understanding, I'm in it for the pure passion, but like the obsession of getting better.
Yeah.
That's what actually drives me. The money is a byproduct, fame, byproduct, TikTok, byproduct. All of this is
Mm-hmm.
byproduct of just one thing, obsessive goal of getting better.
Yeah.
So I was just like, I was just doing everything and anything basically for free for years.
Mm-hmm. So and by able to living at home, were you working at a restaurant? Were you doing anything else for supplemental
No, I mean, like,
income?
for a long, no, I was dancing. I was still dancing,
Okay, got
I
it.
think. And so I think I was still making some income that way. And yeah, I mean, my parents, to their credit, just like helped me out a ton, and
Yeah,
were like, just go, 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 go. We'll
that's
help you out.
wonderful.
Yeah, so I come from a very privileged background in that way, and
Mm-hmm.
very supportive. My parents are very forward thinking for
Yeah,
definitely for their generation, but just in general, because nobody in their position would ever push their kids, and even, I don't think, support their kids as much as they have me in the arts.
right.
So I am really a testament of their uh, commitment to my career. And I like, yeah, it's unfortunate not everybody has parents like I do,
Yeah, for
because
sure.
a lot of things could be very different.
Yeah. And so in that regards, it was pretty much, hey mom, I'm gonna do this. Did they ever be like, hey, can you walk me through this? Or it was just they saw that it was your passion and that's what you were.
I mean, ironically, they were the ones who kind of encouraged me to pursue acting.
Wonderful.
Like in college and high school, they were like, you should do a play, you should do. And I was just too nervous. But then, because of the film, it fell into my lap, and then after
Right.
that, it's like, I'm going to do this. And I think they still have their doubts, they still have their worries. uh,
Mm-hmm.
11, 10 years later. um, and it's all going to be centered around, I think, one thing, which is money. It's always going to
Mm-hmm.
be centered around money, as in, like, can you actually just pay your own bills?
Right.
And that's still, it's still a challenge.
Mm-hmm.
And it's always going to be a challenge because you work freelance. But this is where those business skills really can come into play. And
Absolutely.
that's what I'm learning now, 11 years later, whatever. But it's like all these different pieces that I was introduced to at different parts of my life.
Mm-hmm.
I'm now understanding how to put them together.
Yeah. So what are some of those pieces that you saw back then? And you're like, oh, this is actually something that I can do, or something along
Yeah,
those
so
lines.
I think economics put in the idea of, like, money and business kind of stuff. And then
Mm-hmm.
I just took an amazing course on learning about how to make money online, and they talked about marketing and selling and just that language and those skills and the importance of like email lists
Yeah.
and sales funnels and how to give more bang for the buck as opposed to like, how do I reduce my price? Because there's no actual point in being the lowest price in town. So,
Mhm.
I mean, the second lowest price in town. So you go the other way. You give
Mhm.
more bang for the buck. You give more value to
Right.
consumers. So that way they'll be willing to pay actually a higher price for the same product that they can get at another retailer because they're getting more value from you.
Mhm.
So these kinds of concepts really important. And then financial literacy, like taking the seed of economics and then nourishing it into this plant of financial literacy and getting those books and
Mhm.
understanding the importance of making money work for me, like investing my money and
Mhm.
then learning how to invest it. What are stocks? What is the stock market? What are index funds?
Yeah.
What's crypto? What is real estate? The tax system. Oh, you need to become a business owner now. Okay.
Yeah.
All of these things, I would say like the last 2 years, 2019, 2020, the investment that I've made in terms of financial literacy or self-education, financial
Right.
literacy, and then I would say maybe business or entrepreneurship kind of skills
Mhm.
that I can see how I can see it already paying dividends, but I can already see the positive spillover effects that it will have in my career as an actor because again, it's a business.
Right.
So now it becomes how do I take all these concepts and combine it with uh, the creative endeavors that I want to do. So now,
Mhm.
again, the financial literacy business stuff taught me the ownership mentality,
Right.
which owners own, which obviously it's obvious, but there's a lot that comes with that,
Yeah.
which is responsibility, which is discipline, which is
Mhm.
leadership, which is accountability. All these things are basically what I learned back in the day, like from martial arts, from tennis, from being in that discipline week in week out of doing what I know I'm
Mhm.
supposed to do. Even though I don't like it, I don't enjoy martial arts, I don't enjoy karate,
Yeah.
but I gotta do it because my mom is forcing me to do it or whatever. But just this idea of like I have to do it. I just have. There's no other choice.
Mhm.
And that mentality is somewhat good if you can direct it in the right way, I
Yeah.
suppose, towards what you really are passionate about. So all these things, now that I think about it, it's all coming together, and again, it makes me very, very optimistic about my future, and then it creates this positive feedback loop where I'm the owner. So whatever I think, and if I do it and put it into action, I can make happen.
Right.
So now it becomes, what do I want? What do I want to do? Oh, I want to do
Mhm.
that. Okay, so then that, then that, then that. I want an Oscar. Okay, let's do that. But it's a long-term investment. Okay, maybe
Right.
it's 30 years down the road. Maybe it's 20 years down the road. Whatever, we'll commit. It's process, process, process. That's what I'm realizing is that
Yeah.
process is the only thing that really matters. And if you can tie yourself to process,
Mhm.
the results are secondary, they're important, but the process it has to take primary focus because that's the only way you get better. And if you get better and you start adding skills that maybe you have judgment about, business,
Mhm.
money, you add that to the stuff that you're naturally passionate about because you have the discipline and self-awareness to do it and you just force yourself to do it.
Yeah.
Now you can add more value to whatever line of work you're in, which
Mhm.
then improves your probability of success within the thing that you're after.
Yeah. And I like to tell people a lot, like most things that we want to do, someone has probably done it before us. So there's there's a framework on how to get that done. There's someone we can
Yes.
learn with. We have
Yes.
abundance amount of information. So
Yes.
what was it in 2019 that got you started on this financial literacy? Was it somebody? Was it a friend? What?
Yeah, it was. I mean, there was a couple of years before leading up to it. Like it was really after college that I realized, oh, I have this money in my savings account. I want to do something with it. So that's when I really started self-educating.
Okay.
And it took me some time. It took me like, well, I mean, like 4 or 5 years to find the right books. And I was kind of sporadically doing it too.
Yeah.
but it was really something happened. Something clicked in 2019 where I just went book after book. Like one book led me to another book, which led me to another book, which led me to another book. And then I think I just started getting a little more savvy with how I was using social media, in particular YouTube.
Okay.
And I was inputting into YouTube how to invest. Tony Robbins, this person, that person, this person. So then that led me to their books and their information. And
Right.
those books led me to this. So it was really about, I have access to the information. I have these tools at my disposal, but how am I using them?
Right.
Which I think is a huge thing about social media, is that it's an amazing tool.
Yeah.
If you don't use it with the right self-awareness and discipline, then it can really hurt you. You can completely expand your life through social media. You can also contract your life through social media, and you can feed whatever you want. If you have curiosity, you can feed it. If you have insecurity, you can feed it. If you have a desire to get better, you can feed that. If you're in need of motivation, you can feed that. That's what,
plenty of that around.
yeah, that's what social media, it's a tool that can feed whatever you want,
Yeah.
whatever you're hungry for. So I just started using that better. And then I just read voraciously in 2019. Like every month, every day I was reading, and it was just like gathering this knowledge and mind bending. It was mostly financial literacy, but it was like personal development.
Yeah. What was some of the personal development books that you liked?
I would say the best one was Extreme Ownership.
Okay, Jocko.
Yeah. And
where did you find Jocko at?
Some podcast, probably maybe Joe Rogan.
Yeah, so Joe Rogan and Tim Ferriss both had him on like pretty close to each other, and then he's doing quite well.
Yeah. He's really amazing. Like that whole leadership mindset. And then I was also reading a lot of autobiographies or biographies. So I really love Walter Isaacson, who's an author of he did a biography on Steve Jobs. It's great. He did one on Einstein. He did one on Da Vinci.
Wow.
And Da Vinci is a really interesting guy. Like pure curiosity, like curiosity for curiosity's sake, and that's why his attention to detail in like the musculature of the human body is so. Because he would dissect cadavers. He would spend a lot of time doing that. And I would read a lot of Bruce Lee.
Okay.
I'm a big Bruce Lee fan. So I would say the best personal development book that I read was that Extreme Ownership book.
So when you read a book like that, I'd say there's a lot of people out there that read a lot of books and they're like, hey, I know all this information, but how did you start implementing that into your life?
Yeah, that's what I started realizing this year is like 2019 was a year of knowledge, let's say. 2020 was a year of action.
Yeah.
And so it was about taking all that and a little bit of luck, I think, with TikTok and blowing up and stuff like that. So then I realized, the ownership mentality here, it's at play right now. Like I own the creative process.
Right.
I don't own the platform. So the platform can always go away, but I have found a way to own the process to then keep creating.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's do that. Then I started getting more popular. Now it's about, okay, how do I maybe monetize this? So that's when I started creating the merch.
There you go.
And then getting into that game.
Yeah. So who sorry, on the merch part, was somebody saying, hey, you need a Shopify account or a Threads, or what was the move on that?
So I saw a TikTok. I distinctly remember this. I saw a TikTok. Somebody posted about like, hey, here's how you create merch. Yeah. You go to Teespring, open up an account, create a design, and you sell. Great. So that's where I started. Teespring, it's great for beginners.
Yeah.
But for me, I just knew I wanted to get more and more. Efficiency is very important to me. So I want to do whatever it is at a level where I feel like I'm being most efficient,
Yes.
and I'm doing it at a high level.
Mhm.
I feel is, oh, this is the way like the pros would do it.
Yeah.
So I started with Teespring, and that was great. And I learned, oh, that I can sell merch, I can create merch, I
Mhm.
can do it. Okay, cool. Then I got a little more popular, and a really great artist reached out to me and was like, hey, I want to like help you design your next line of merch.
Nice.
Cool. So I was like, okay, cool. Like, and she's really awesome. She like has her own brand. She has her own. So I was
Yeah.
like, oh my God, it's cool. And then she introduced me to the whole like Shopify, Wix,
Mhm.
e-commerce store. And she introduced me to Printful, which is a third-party print
Yeah.
on demand service. And she introduced me to that whole, I would call it the next level, like
Right.
tier. It's one up from Teespring in that now I get to create an email list.
Mhm.
I get to see where the orders are at. I also have to do maybe some of the customer service and like figure all that out.
Mhm.
But I have more oversight over the process of my customer's journey,
Yeah.
because I know where they place. Oh, this person placed the order. This is her name. This is her address. This is her email. This is blah.
Mhm.
The order is now being printed. The order is now being shipped. Blah 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 blah. With Teespring, I can't do. It's very very bare minimum.
Yeah.
I can't do any of that. So Printful was the next level. Then I was like, I don't know, like this is cool, it's great, but is there another level? And then I started learning about, I started making friends on TikTok through the Layman Investor account.
Mhm.
I came across Adrian Brambilla, who's an amazing, like, he's a king of like affiliate marketing and online
Mhm.
business. And I was like just picking his brain because he was really just a really nice guy. We bonded. He's a dancer, so we bonded on that.
Super cool.
Yeah,
Adrian, as in living out of his van
van.
currently.
Yeah,
Well, there you go.
yeah. This is freaking amazing. And so
So
I was
who
just pick,
contacted who on that?
I think he DM'd me on Instagram, and then we sort of DM'd and like connected, and like
Yeah.
he's a really nice guy, and like he's very transparent with just like his information, and just
Mhm.
grounded, and you can see it in his content. Like he's not
Yeah.
a scammer. He's not,
Yeah.
you know. So I just picked his brain about stuff,
That's
and
awesome.
he introduced me to some books by Russell Brunson.
Okay.
Russell Brunson created the platform ClickFunnels.
Mhm.
So that's when I started reading his books, learning about ClickFunnels, sales funnels. That led me to ClickFunnels, and then taking the One Funnel Away challenge, which was also recommended to me by another friend who I made. Again, it's just like networking on social media. Like,
Yeah.
one person saying this, and the other person's kind of piggybacking on it. And it's like, so I took that.
Mhm.
And that was like a game changer. That's when I learned about the importance of email lists. That's when I learned about the importance of bringing more value. That's when I learned the importance of telling your story,
Mhm.
which I had already understood how to do because I'm an actor. So storytelling kind of lends it. And then I started realizing marketing and selling is not evil, and it's not yucky. It's just that some people who do it are yucky.
Yeah.
It's
Car
the same
salesman.
thing. Yeah, it's the same people that, like, in the acting world, there's some actors that are just yucky,
Mhm.
but it doesn't make acting the profession inherently yucky.
Yeah.
It's the people who express and how they express.
Mhm.
And if you get distracted by that, then you might create a wrong generalization about what they do. And
Mhm.
this is where I see artists shoot themselves in the foot, because what I see is all artists hate business.
Okay.
But if they combine the two together, they might actually be able to live and create and influence the people that they want to.
Yeah.
So this is where art and business come into play and come together. And what I realize about marketing and selling is that it's just another medium of storytelling.
Mhm.
And so by me attacking this skill set that I used to have judgment about, and I used to hate
Yeah.
and condemn, if I approach it from that lens of this is just storytelling, now I can start learning about it.
Mhm.
Now I get out of my own way. And now I can open myself up to actual useful knowledge from people that are actually have integrity, and
Yeah.
are making money and are influencing people's lives. So and what I realize is like, there's nothing wrong with marketing and selling and making a buck off of somebody.
Yeah.
If the value you're giving is up here and the price they're paying is down here.
Right. Yeah.
It's when it's
definitely,
reversed,
yeah.
that's the problem.
Yeah.
So yeah, so now I'm just taking action and all this stuff. It's helped a lot.
So how do you manage all the things that you're doing in a day now? Obviously, since what we have going right now in 2020, we can't do as much stuff. But how do you choose on what you're going to do in a day, a week? You said you don't do too much planning. So what does that look like for you?
I fall into like rhythms. So I will say that, like, again, it's that discipline. It's that like childhood, like, oh, it's Tuesday, you got to go to karate. It's Wednesday, you got to go to 10. So every day, no matter what, I will always make content on TikTok.
Got it.
And then I will always repurpose to Instagram. And then after that work is done, I'm working on like another sales funnel to launch the hoodie.
Awesome.
So now it's about creating digital assets around that. I'm working on some audio files. I'm like writing a short story. Like it's like this other way of expressing myself through business and ownership, because I own it.
Yeah.
Like I own the process of all of this.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like I'm not waiting for somebody else.
Yeah.
So again, it's more of that practice of ownership. So that's what I'm working on now. And then it will probably evolve. And then I'll probably like look to make another funnel around this great course, the One Funnel Away Challenge, to give people more value. That's another thing I do affiliate marketing for, because I think it's just such a valuable course. And if people want to take it, they can just go to the links in my bio on the Link Investor. They can take the course. So those are my projects right now. Is creating that, the funnels, and creating, like, if you will, side hustles.
Right.
And then all the money that comes in, however little, however much it is, I can now use to pay my rent, food, and then invest and jack up my investments.
So as far as streams of income, are you shooting for like, hey, I want 8 or 9, or it's I want just X amount of incomes that are coming in without me having to put more hours in every single week, or what does that kind of look like?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think the upfront work is a lot, for sure, because you have to kind of build and you have to invest the time to build a brand and then build all that stuff.
Yeah.
And the new skills and whatnot. So the idea is to just keep exploring this and to keep, as the money's coming in, put it into investments like my index funds, my crypto, and then eventually get into real estate and investment properties.
Yeah.
That's where the real passive income, tax-free, can really be amazing. And then keep making content to then get brand deals. So that's another source of income. And that will then be fed into that. I think eventually, like, it would be to get these index fund portfolio to, like, I don't know. I don't really have a end goal in mind. To me, it's just about keep this process up.
Yes. Yeah.
There's no end. There's like, I don't really have a number per se. It's like $1 million in the nest egg, 2 million.
Right.
It's really about keeping this system going, giving myself more and more freedom. And then then I have the options to do, oh, I want to donate. Oh, I want to invest in this person. Oh, I want to help a friend out.
Yeah.
Oh, I want to go on vacation or whatever. Ultimately, it's to get to a place where I no longer need, where there's no longer pressure on my creative work to fund everything else.
Right. And so, like, when you say freedom, you mean making money not by the hours you put in, but by the things that you've done.
Yeah. So now the money is working for me. Making money work for you. Yeah.
So as far as doing all those things, 2019, what has your fitness and health looked like since all we've been doing all this stuff for a while?
Yeah, it's been pretty good. 2019 was good. I started training in martial arts again, but this time in Bruce Lee's Jeet Kune Do.
Oh, I've actually never heard of that one.
Yeah, it's really great. Unfortunately, this year because of Corona,
Yeah.
couldn't really train as much, but that was a great discipline. And then so I still dance a lot. So
Okay.
that's a big form of
Yeah.
exercise. I do animal movements,
Okay. Flows. Yep.
animal flow. I started implementing that again
Super cool.
this year. So yeah, this year has been a lot of at-home HIIT workouts and dance. And then I just went for like a 5-mile run today
Nice.
for the first time. It was like blistering cold in LA, that is.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then I think what I need to do is incorporate more stretching as I get older. That's
I heard that's good for you.
Yeah. The yoga was like helping me.
Yeah.
But I can't really go to my yoga. Like I don't like stretching. It's
yeah.
I just don't like it.
I'm right there with you.
You know, so but a yoga class forces you, and you know what I mean?
Yes, for sure.
But now that I don't have that, I just got to do it at home.
Mm-hmm.
So the fitness has been good. The diet's been good over the last few weeks.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of salad, a lot of like chicken. I also have like acid reflux, so I can't. I have
Your
to be
body
very
lets you know pretty early on.
Yeah, I gotta be very careful. If I like I remember I slow cooked this leg of lamb. It was it became very good after a while.
Yeah.
But I cooked it with wine and like salt and all this stuff. For that whole week, I just had like so much acidity and so much it was brutal. But I also can't throw out food. Like I just can't do that. You know what I mean? Like I put all this time, effort, and
I'm looking for financial freedom here. I can't be throwing out my
food. Yeah, exactly. And it lasted a week, so it was a very good investment. It was that meal costed me $70, and it lasted me a week.
21 meals.
No, let's say 7 meals.
Okay.
So that's $10 a meal, right?
Yeah.
It's not bad.
Yeah, for a tasty meal, that's pretty good.
Yeah, and then we make heroes. And
yeah, for sure. So would you say your fitness and nutrition is more so habit-based, or do you have to force yourself day in and day out to kind of do these things?
Yeah, I think it's more habit-based. I see myself sometimes going through dips, which is something is happening, and like I am not like I'm like exercising demons out of me, if you will.
Yeah.
And then I get back on track because for whatever reason I'm like, yeah, this has got to change. So then I get into that, and then so it cycles. Eventually, what I would like to do is, again, this will be another investment, is to get a proper trainer, but also a nutritionist, so I can get more scientific, and much more specific to my body, with fitness goals and nutrition goals that will then feed it, so that I can sustain my energy and my body as I get older, because I want to be able to move the way I'm moving now. I want to be able to move when I'm 50, 60, like Tom Cruise or like, those guys.
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, that's one of the main things I have this podcast on for, is because most people, when they start looking at diets or start about losing weight, they're kind of hard-headed in that direction. And then I'll have you on, and then I'll say like, hey, this is kind of what you do. And that's not based off of just like 90 days of effort. And then it's just your habits.
Yeah, to me, it's lifelong commitments. My dad would always ask me, like, his huge thing was like, can you do this when you're 70? Can you do this when you're 80? Like, whatever you're doing now, it's great, but can you do it when you're like 70? Can you do it? So it's that kind of time frame. It's that long-term investment time frame that I think of. These are long-term, lifelong commitments to relative health and fitness. Like I'm not like athlete fighting shape, but I would say like if I don't
ran 5 miles, that's pretty good.
But like if I don't like my whole mental game deteriorates when my physical game, when I can't work out.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, like being injured is not fun. Like I had an injury, a shoulder injury, like a few years ago.
Hmm.
Just those 3-4 months was just mentally, it was like horrible.
Yeah, for
Because
sure.
if I can't move, it's very troubling for me.
Oh yeah, yeah. My wife tells me to go work out in the garage if I'm ornery or something of that nature. It's like, you working
Yeah,
out today? Go work
yeah,
out.
yeah, yeah,
So yeah, if anybody was interested in finding you on social media, or where would they
yeah.
find you?
So if you want to find the entertainment acting
Yeah.
stuff, you can follow me on TikTok and Instagram at the real Rahul Rai.
Okay.
If you want to find the investing stuff, financial literacy stuff, and the side hustle stuff,
Hmm.
you can find me on TikTok and Instagram at the layman investor.
Wonderful.
And that's about it. Those are the two main.
That'll have the rest of the stuff if they need
Yeah,
it. So yeah,
yeah.
the last two questions that everybody gets. What's your definition of health? Not necessarily the dictionary definition, but what's something that you strive for, just as far as health goes?
Yeah, I think if you can sweat every day, I think that would be very, very useful.
Hmm.
At least once a day, if you can find a time to like get your heart rate up and sweat and work out, then it has very positive impacts on everything else you do. It's people like ask me like how I have so much energy because I don't drink coffee.
Yeah.
I don't do Red Bull. I don't do Monster. I don't do like energy drinks. They're like,
Hmm.
how do you have so much energy? And like, it's because I work out.
Hmm.
How do you have nice skin? It's because I work. I don't do treatments. Like
Yeah.
I don't do, and I never realized like I had relative good skin until
Yeah.
TikTok, and people were like, whoa, it's weird. TikTok has revealed a lot of things to me, but it's just, I think really the secret weapon is sweating and exfoliating your skin through sweat and
Hmm.
working out, and then like a healthy amount of sleep. So again, if you want like, I don't know, that happiness, that I think working out is going to be a very important pivotal part of it.
Hmm. And then as far as what's something from your life that anybody listening to the podcast would be able to take away as a benefit for to theirs?
Yeah, I would say like I read this in Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki, and it's always resonated with me. It's like you might be one or two skills away from like completely um, expanding and like realizing your potential.
Hmm.
But what I would add to that is those one or two skills might be in realms of knowledge that you have a ton of judgment about and fear.
Hmm.
So for me, it was like the financial literacy stuff, the business stuff, and now I see the positive spillover effects.
Hmm.
So if you have the self-awareness to understand like this skill is important for me to get and acquire and learn, I don't want to do it.
Hmm.
And then you tie in the discipline to just do it anyways because you are scared, because you are that, it will do a lot. It will pay, I think it will pay you dividends in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it. Well, thank you very much for coming on.
Thanks for having me, man. It was a lot of fun.
Well, there we go.
Damn. That was a quick hour and a half. That was solid.
Yes, it was. Yeah, it goes by quickly.
Yeah, no, I went on another podcast. It was the same amount of time, but it just felt like really dragged out
Yeah.
and felt really slow. But this one was just like, whoa.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I would say my background in conversations would be I grew up spending time with my grandparents, and
There
they
you go.
all had very well-rounded friends, and they all were extremely just well earth travelers and stuff like that. So I would just sit there and listen, and then as I got older and older, like I was allowed to join the conversation, but
Nice.
it was mostly from that. And then a lot of the jobs I had, instead of working, I would just be talking to people
Yeah.
because I was always so curious. But yeah, no, I just pretty much a majority of the questions I ask, it's because I'm interested. I'm not just trying to like lead you to a certain direction, but
Yeah.
I enjoy it.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. No, I had a great time. Thank you for
Yeah.
having
Thank
me.
you very much. Yeah.
If you want to do this again
For
sometime in the
sure.
future, like 6 months, a year from now, whatever.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, it was
Let
great.
me know.
So how is the funnel and all that stuff going for you?
It's good, man. Like so like Teespring to Printful to funnels.
Yeah.
I've just seen, if we're just talking purely money, we've
Mhm.
just been able to like basically double everything
That's
with the
great.
funnel, using the funnels. So to me, like, it's either you have a sales funnel or a website. Those are
Mhm.
like the two vehicles that you can sell your stuff through, either your product or somebody else's product.
Yeah.
In my personal experience selling merch across these different platforms, the funnel provides, again, the most bang for the buck
Right.
to the customers, which then helps you as a business, which then allows you, and I've been able to increase my profit margins actually, because
Really?
yeah, so like I can now, so I sell a pillowcase and I
Mhm.
sell blankets,
Okay.
but as part of this, I've created like this whole collection,
Mhm.
like this whole, it's called a boyfriend collection.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's got a theme, it's got a story, and then I've got digital products attached to it to
Mhm.
create more of that experience in the entertainment experience.
Yeah.
So I can sell a pillowcase for like $50,
Yeah. Nice.
and then I can add like a
That's
little
a pretty
bonus.
good profit margin.
Yeah, I mean, I'm also paying for the cool thing is now, because I'm able to charge that and get a and be able to provide value at that level,
Yeah.
I can actually pay your shipping now.
Oh, everybody loves free shipping.
So now you don't have to pay for shipping. So
Yeah.
I'm basically covering that.
Yeah.
But it doesn't eat into my margins to such a degree that I'm now just making $1.
Right. Yeah.
Right? So I'm able to do that kind of stuff because I understand if you provide more value, you can charge a slightly higher price.
Mhm.
The customer is still winning out at the end,
For sure.
and you get to tell your story, and you get to give them more of an experience. So
Yeah.
in that way, the one funnel away challenge, which is the course that I took to learn all this,
Yeah.
to me, it's been like I call it my best investment of 2020
Really?
because of all the skills that I've learned,
Yeah.
and just the new perspective I have on marketing and selling and
Oh,
storytelling.
absolutely. Yeah. My wife and I started TikTok at the same time. So I actually do nutrition coaching.
Yeah.
And we hit 10,000 followers around the same time. I think I'm around 26,000. She's at about 500,000. So
Oh, nice. Are you guys
so
both in nutrition?
no, she does organizational actually.
Okay.
So she put her first course out, I think it was like 2 days ago, and we're working with Antonio. He's relatively new on TikTok. I think he worked with Gary Vee or something. I should probably background check that. But he's
Yeah.
been very helpful, just being able to put the automatic stuffs in place and saying, here, hey, here's your deadlines. This is exactly what to do. And like, it's like you said, like we could have tried to figure this out and be like, hey, these random steps, or you take a class,
Yeah. Or you
it's so
hire
nice.
somebody.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. That's another thing that I've learned, like hire somebody that knows more than you, pay
Yes,
them so that
absolutely.
you can expedite the time.
Yeah, yeah. And as far as the movement and stretching stuff goes, have you ever heard of Ido Portal?
Oh yeah, I love him.
Okay, so there's if you're not a huge big fan of stretching, I have a coach in Boulder that he was one of Ido's students that they go and whatnot. They finally started opening up their gyms, and this
Nice.
was like 2 years ago. And I kept on bugging them like, hey, like, can you guys do an online thing? But they
Yeah.
were like crushing it in person, so they didn't need to do anything. But COVID hit, and they're like, hey, we're doing Zoom training. I'm like, yes.
Oh, that's awesome.
So
Is it?
yeah, it's fantastic.
Do you have a link to it or something?
Yeah, I can send it to you.
Yeah.
But yeah, they have a Vimeo account where there's like 50 different 1 hour lessons on there. And then they
Oh,
also do a train heroic thing where they'll write you like an individual program and stuff. So it's super nice. Like I hate stretching, but like so those animal flows, like they do a lot of that stuff, but then it'll also be
yeah.
like, hey, here's your handstand practice, here's
Yes.
pull-ups and all those things. Like I like it.
So it's like structured.
Yeah, so like
Oh, awesome.
let's see if I
Because
can.
that's what I've actually been looking for,
Yeah.
is like more of a structured class
Hmm.
where I can learn
Yeah, so
movement.
it will be
movement.
like this was, I don't know how well that's going to show up. So it
That's
will be
okay.
like the day, and then it
And
will
then they
have
have,
the workouts, and then there's a video for
oh,
each of the
nice.
workouts and stuff. So yeah, all like the spinal waves and that stuff, like that's a good crowd pleaser.
Oh yeah. No, I would love that if you can send that to me.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
It's a subscription, I'm guessing.
Yeah, so you get your coach and then you get the Vimeo stuff as well. So they do, I think it's like a 6 or 8 week program, because depending on where you're at, they'll give you a bunch of stuff, just because these guys have been training for the last 5-10 years and they have too much knowledge. Like, no, you just need to stick with this. I'm like, fine, okay.
Yeah, I'd love to see that.
Yeah, no, it and like you said, like stretching, I would do like hot yoga, and like my aunt does yoga and Pilates, and I'm just like, unless I'm at the class, it's not gonna happen.
Yeah, I gotta stretch more. I'm having like lower back problems.
Yeah.
So I just pulled a muscle. It's like getting better, but it's a reminder to me.
For sure. Cool. Yeah, and I'll text you that and send you the link on there. But yeah, awesome. I will talk to you soon. This is fantastic.
Yeah, dude. It was a pleasure meeting you, my man.
Yeah, absolutely. And how do you pronounce your name again?
Raul.
Raul. Wonderful.
And rye, like the bread.
Okay. Wonderful.
Awesome.
All right. Have a great night. Bye.
You too.